I don't like straight lines. They always end up looking funny. I think I'm just going to copy and paste. I like all these centering tools that Photoshop has. Oops, don't like that. Putting both of the hinges, the layers, into a single layer, merging it. Okay, now I'm going to put all the outline into a single layer. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, I am going to start adding color. Okay. Now this is just the base color. This is what I'm going to be adding color to, the highlights and the lowlights. On. Oh, that's not going to work. I thought I'd take a shortcut there, but that did not work out as well as I thought it would. I'm going to have to fiddle with it way too much, and it will just be faster. At this point, you can also use the bucket tool, but I don't like it because it ends up leaving a weird line that I always end up having to go back and recolor. If it's a huge thing, I will go ahead and do that, but for this, I'm not going to. These are small. Okay, now I'm turning this back on for reference. And this is what I use that outline for, is just to get my lines right. Ooh, that was totally not right. I think I'm just going to work on this wing to get to an idea. Okay. I'm really, really rushing this. I'm not. It's comfortable. There's sticky keys again. I think I'm going to add some splatter. When you're working with metal, there's always lots of little tiny scratches, and the color is never, never what you think it is. Oh, that's why it's not doing it. Too much. I think the mailman's here. Trying out these brushes, seeing what they look like. And I'm not trying to get something that's exactly like the picture, because if I wanted to do that, I could just copy and paste it. What I'm trying to do is getting more of a cartoonish image that does look like brass. What I'm doing right now is what art teachers call petting the line. And it's a really, really bad habit. But I've tried stopping and it's never worked out for me. For some reason, on Photoshop 2021, when you pick a text style, it keeps wanting to print this one sentence up in Latin. And I haven't figured out yet how to stop it from doing that. I don't use Photoshop 2021 often enough. I prefer Photoshop CS6. Oops, I thought I was at the end of the sentence. It keeps going forever. So this is really something I need to figure out how to stop this from happening. But I just got Photoshop 2021. And I'm still learning how all the little tricks. Oh no! Just gonna get rid of that. That's And also my picture's slightly off, so I want to rotate these letters. I think I'll leave it that way. Well, I'm going back and forth between using my mouse and a Wacom tablet. Okay, I want it more than that. And here I am back to petting the line. Yep, did that wrong. Okay, now I'm going to check to see what's going on here. All right, so as you can tell, digital art, you have a little bit more flexibility, but it takes a long time to get what you want. And I'm rushing this quite a bit. So you can kind of have an idea what the token is going to look like when I'm done. But time is just about up, so I thought I would open up a couple of So this is something that I did that's based on, oops, sorry, I'm having a really hard time seeing my, anyways, one of my neighbors was getting rid of their trellis, and it had these really incredibly neat metal roses on it that were just in horrible condition. They were rusted and falling apart, but I couldn't get them off the trellis. And when I went back with a tool to try to get them off, it was gone. So I was really glad that I actually took photos of it. Okay, well, it looks like time is up. I'm not sure if anybody saw. I didn't see anybody on Facebook or YouTube. I will stop sharing my screen now. Dragos, did it look like there was anybody in the session at all?
So there are a couple of the viewers on Facebook, a few people on Twitch, and there's a few people watching in the air meet right now.
Okay, I cannot see any of them. I'm on Facebook and I don't see anybody.
Make sure that you're looking at the right event on Facebook, because the stream hiccuped and sputtered a few times. I'm watching it on Facebook right now too.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll message you the link.
Yeah, I'm using the link. I'm not sure what's going on with it.
No, it's not just it. The link didn't work when we first started, so it's you have to go to just have to go to the main Norwescon event page.
Oh. Right, Facebook.
You go there. Let's find it for you. Where is it? There we go. Copy link. I'm sending it to you in Zoom and on Facebook. Oops. Actually, I take that back. We have 4 people watching us on Facebook.
Okay.
And I'll shut up now. I guess we should hop over to a different table for the in the air meet itself in the arena. We're art tables labeled by artists, so I guess I'll hop over in the next artist table.
I don't think anybody's going to actually be on the table. I just use them.
Well, right now there's Lizzie Hill and Brittany Torres are in there right now.
Oh, Brittany Torres. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brittany Otto should be there soon. She's the next artist.
Oh,
but
okay. Well,
if you sent me the wrong link, then I sent her the wrong link.
Why don't I message her over there? I think she can hear us.
Okay. Yeah, there's Brittany Otto and Brittany Torres. And Brittany Otto is the next artist up.
Well, let's tell either Brittany Torres, I guess, if she's the next. Brittany Otto's next artist. Hold on a second. I apologize. I'm confused here. Oh, okay. Okay, Brittany Torres is the one that's in the air meet right now. Shall we send her the link to make sure she's going to the right Zoom?
That's what I'm doing right now.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I just sent her the correct link. Hopefully she got it. Okay. I'm going to try going into the link that I sent her originally. And let her know that we got the wrong one at first. Oh, you got it. Good.
There we go. Okay, I was like, I am sitting in here alone, and this feels like it's not right, but okay.
Yeah, we had the wrong link at first.
Well, I'm glad we got that sorted. That's good.
Okay. Well, I'm going to head over to Facebook and, well, I'm going to mute myself and turn off my video and head over to Facebook or start watching Facebook to make sure that I can catch the people in it. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Brittany, was there anything that you wanted me to say to introduce you?
I mean, I guess if you've got any sort of like general quick bio stuff, I guess.
Okay. I'm sorry. I got so flustered by the whole...
no, it's fine. Yeah, no, if you want, there's a quick like little artist statement bio thing on my website about page, if that is the easiest way to, if you just want to ad hoc something from that. That's probably the easiest split second thing.
Okay. All right, I'm heading over to your page right now. We're going to be going live in just a second.
Okay.
Actually, you're live right now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hello.
Right. I will introduce you now. Okay, so everybody, this is Brittany Otto of
Hello.
Badger.
Hello.
Of Badger Burrow Studio. She does some amazing 3D paper sculpture. Today she's going to be working on a single layer, so she's not going to be doing her usual multi-layer sculpture. You really have, if you want to get the full effect, you have got to check out her website. She just does some amazing things. So I'll let you go ahead, Brittany.
Cool.
And let me get myself out of here.
Yeah, you're fine. Sounds good. Yeah, so just to give an idea for those of you that are just tuning in now, the normal stuff that I do is sculpture like this. This is a smaller reproduction laser cut piece, but all of it's all hand cut originally, but it's very 3D, and backlit with beautiful LEDs. But for today, we're going to be doing some single layer cuts, sort of similar to this, where it's all hand cut, and then we're probably not going to get to the watercolor background today, but over today and tomorrow we're going to be working on cutting out this design. So if anybody has any questions about things, be sure to relay those over and I will do my best to answer them. But yeah, so I've already pre-drawn out this design and we're going to just start cutting. I use a knife. Right now I'm using a particular similarly number 11 blade. Usually before I used this particular brand, I was using a different one. But usually when I start this out, everything has to be planned out so it's got structure in mind. These big white areas will be cut out, and then all of these little darkened areas will also be cut out to create a beautiful piece here. And usually we're going to start with the tedious stuff of the small things, because usually when I'm doing cutting, I work from the small details into larger ones to maintain structure. So we're just going to pick a spot, probably down in this corner, and we're just going to start cutting. But yeah, it is a meditative process, but it can also be very relaxing. And some of these pieces are very small. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit for you guys. You might get a little fuzzy feeling, but that might give you guys a better look at what's going on. It tends to be very quiet and very chill. A lot of my work is influenced by the environment, a lot of kind of biology and natural resource stuff. But also most everything has an element of fantasy to it, which I find really nice and a nice kind of escape. It's also neat is that, so some of my work I do have laser cut reproductions of some of my work. And it's interesting to note that there is a difference between the laser cut and the hand cut pieces, because the hand cut pieces, because I'm using a knife, all of the cuts can end up having a slight angle to them. So you can see how I've got the knife kind of angled as I'm working, just kind of moves along with it. And that creates a different effect from the laser cut, which is all very vertical, up and down, it's all perpendicular. But you can kind of see how this creates this really cool negative space effect. And a lot of what I'm drawing, a lot of what I have to take into account is the structure of the paper. So, you know, if you cut out something that's floating in the middle of a circle, you have to figure out a way to support that thing that is floating, either through very thin structured lines or figure out a different creative way to do it. So it becomes a really interesting puzzle of physics with the limitations and the structure of the paper and how that plays with the design that you want to create. I'm gonna do this nice, slightly larger spot here. There's a lot of little tiny details for this piece here. I was kind of going with the idea of this butterfly that's kind of breaking off into these little tiny paint stroke splatter pieces. And instead of using paint to use that to get that effect, I'm going to be doing the paper cutting of that feeling and then using the paint as a backdrop. Paper that I'm cutting through right now is 140 pound weight watercolor paper, cold press. This is a thick paper. This is what you get. Sometimes you have to work around what the structure of the paper is telling you. Something that thin. Okay, let's get you out. Grab a pair of tweezers. There we go. Sometimes these little bits of tweezers can be very helpful. It's kind of interesting with my work. A lot of the time, it ends up feeling like, you know, I'm drawing the same piece like 3 or 4 times over and over again in different ways. Because there's the first initial sketch, which then moves into having to be drawn, like with the boxes that I create a sketch like this, a 1-to-1 sketch, but on just regular paper. And then I have to transfer those layers, those sketched layers onto the layered paper that I'm working with. So then I have to sketch it again, and then I have to cut it out again. So I'm basically going over the same lines at least 2 or 3 times for every piece. I really enjoy the manual feel of the work, because as much as I could do some of this with you know, computer tools and such, taking the time and slowing the process down can actually allow for some really neat things. It allows for some last minute decisions that can make or break some of this on how it turns out. But yeah, that one, I should have done this little piece here a little earlier, but it's okay, we got this, because teeny tiny little pieces, like look at that, this is tiny. Itty bitty little pieces of paper everywhere. Sometimes there's just a little bit, you have to help it out a little bit. I usually wait for the large cuts until last, because that's where, if you do the details first, then that means that you maintain as much structural integrity of the paper as possible for as long as possible, which makes it a little easier. And you're less liable to tear.
Hannah, did you mention the kind of mat that you're using right now?
Oh yeah. So I'm just using a cutting mat that you can get at a normal hobby store. It's advertised as self-healing, but as you can see, like to a certain extent, like I've used it so much that you can see like the cut lines in it, and it gets a little rougher over time. But yeah, it's just one of those standard cutting mats. This one that I've got here is 18 by 24 inches, which isn't necessary for this kind of work, but it is very useful for protecting whatever surface you're working with or working on, because knives are sharp. But yeah, ultimately, yeah, like, yeah, it also gives a nice hard surface, and the amount of pressure that I have to exert to get through this thickness of paper. Some people apparently are a little surprised at the amount of pressure that I have to exert, which is part of the reason why I've gone through a number of different kinds of blades to find one that works. Because the normal like X-Acto blade, number 11 X-Acto blades by the X-Acto brand, the tips are a little too flimsy, so they tend to break far too easily and quickly for my work. So I was using an X-Acto number 16 blade. I think I've got some of those around here still I can show. So the X-Acto number 16 blades were shorter and stouter.
Mm-hmm.
So they were shorter and stouter. This is what I used for a very long time. And then I'm working with someone who's developing a modified, almost the same as number 11 blade as an X-Acto, but it's it's a brand new kind of like experimental thing where the blade tip has a little bit more material behind it, but it still has that fineness that you can get with a number 11 blade. So the tip, as far as I can tell, I don't know what process they're using, but the tip stays intact for much longer, and it allows for slightly finer work. So I'm really in love with the blades that I've got right now. Right now I just have a bunch that are just that I was sent for testing. But they've been doing really good work. But for years, I've been using those number 16 blades, which work better with this thicker paper. If you're doing a thinner paper, I think you can still get away with a number 11 blade. But one of the important things is do not cut with a broken blade because of the amount of pressure and strain that you're putting on your hands and stuff like that. Your hands and your tendons, you can end up getting repetitive stress injuries if you're not working with a good fresh blade. And there's a reason. Like usually, I limit myself to how much in a day I am going to work with a blade because of that. Because I want to be able to continue doing this for years to come. And again, it's that repetitive movement that can get you, but the end result and the reward of it is just it's a process that feels really good to me. It's tedious, but it kind of focuses me in on what I'm doing in the moment and just kind of lets everything else that's going on in the world just kind of slip away, and it just feels nice of just focusing on this one little thing.
Zen-like.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that, yeah. And recently I've been playing around with some stuff with paints and stuff. Specifically, I'm working on a commission right now that is integrating a particular kind of fluorescent UV paint that is largely invisible under usual lighting conditions and only shows up under 365 nanometer light is what I found works best. But it's really neat to create, to work with that pigment on top of a paper cut piece, because it's another, like, I really like the idea of transformative or like hidden things and kind of, not necessarily transformative, but just like, having art that's hidden within it. Or hidden within a piece. Like, my normal work with the boxes is all, it has its different stages. You can view it unlit, and then it transforms into something else entirely once it's lit, and the color just kind of gives it a whole different look and feel and life. And then with the UV pieces, it has yet another layer of that where, like you see it under normal light, you see it under its normal backlighting, and then you can see it under the UV light, and it's completely different. And it's just really fun. One of the things that I've just recently been playing around with very, very experimentally is integrating in some gold leaf or gold dust paste that I can kind of show here, where this is one of my original cuts. But I basically took this paste all along the very, very edge of the cuts on the inside that you can see there. Like, this is not something that you'd want to do with like gold leaf or anything like that. So it's a gold dust paste that I've mixed together to get that gilded edge. And it creates such a beautiful, different, like, kind of, it just gives a little bit of oomph. So I'm really excited to play around with that more and see if I can integrate that into my work a little more often in the original work, because it shows up beautifully on the hand cut because of the way that the blade goes through the paper. It has a slight angle, which creates slightly more surface area and variation. And that imperfection really creates a beautiful effect, whereas like it still looks nice on the laser cut stuff as well, but because all of the cuts are perpendicular, it doesn't quite have the same magic to it.
Don't you have a video of you brushing the paint or the gold dust on?
Yeah, I have a couple of those. I have a couple of those on my social media accounts, and I'm pretty excited about it. I've just been kind of like slowly, like kind of releasing some of these things, just kind of pacing myself on that. This piece here, I'm actually pretty sure I'm going to try and do that gold dust on the edges at some point once it's all cut out. But yeah, it kind of goes back into that whole thing of, you know, I end up going over a piece, the lines of a piece, like 3 or 4 times. You know, like I draw it out, I cut it out, and then go over it again with all the edges and everything, getting that gold dust on it. And it's just, whew, it's a lot of just kind of relaxing, repetitive work, I guess. Yeah, but the results are beautiful.
Yeah, do you plan on making this like a framed print, sort of? I mean, not a print, but do you plan to frame it, or is this going to be something different?
Eventually, usually with the single layer cuts, I usually don't fully frame them for the purpose of, you know, if someone falls in love with it and wants to take it home, then they can kind of frame it how they feel like they envision it for their space. But this one here and the other two, they're the other ones that I've shown here, they're 5x7, so they're pretty standard size to just pop into a frame. I've had a couple of people get some of these like really beautifully custom framed as well, working with the colors and the size and all of that, which is really cool. But yeah, the single layer cuts I don't tend to have pre-framed.
Okay.
But the boxes do come in frames because they're all kind of self-contained. And the laser cut reproductions of the boxes are also framed because the laser cut versions are basically my version of a print. Because trying to do a 2D print of a 3D object, it just doesn't have the same magic to it. So I'm really glad that I have the tools to create reproductions of some of my designs so that they can be more widely available to people.
Yeah. That is absolutely fascinating what you're doing, and I can't imagine it must be really hard on your wrists and fingers.
Actually, a lot of where I end up feeling it is back in my elbow, because if you think about like tennis elbow or something like that, like all those tendons and that fine motion, it kind of shoots up into the elbow. So if I'm having a bad day, like it's not like, it's kind of like the back of the hand and then it goes back up into the elbow if it's a bad day. Or just like, and certain kinds of cuts and repetitive movements will at this point kind of twig it a little more easily than others. I found that foliage is something that I didn't realize I would be doing so much of. And that's one of those things where it's a lot of like short, tiny cuts. And those kinds of cuts can get a little more repetitive in that particular way than others. Like if I've got these like longer flowing cuts or something like that, or even just kind of straighter lines, it's a little less intense on my body, but it's still worth it. It's still really worth it.
Yeah.
I just am careful about how much time I spend per day doing it, so that I can continue doing it for years to come. And there's also an element of mental fortitude of how long can you sit here staring at this tiny thing and doing this repetitive thing.
Mm-hmm.
I find that architecture for me is actually one of the harder things for me to draw and conceptualize and go through, because a lot of it is that kind of like, oh, hey, we're doing windows. Like there was this big bay window. I think it was a commission piece that I did that was inspired by Beauty and the Beast. Huge windows, from the ballroom. I was just like, oh my gosh, so many squares. And like, I really love doing organic lines in my work. It's just because in a way it has its own feel and it's a little less repetitive. I'm not as structured in that kind of abstract way. I tend to gravitate more towards the organic lines. And I love creating a feeling of movement in the work as well. So sometimes I just also like to just go flip, let's see how this looks.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's a good way to see how it is.
Yeah, because the drawing can be a little deceptive in some ways because, I have a map in my mind about what line means what and how it's going to come together. Like, for instance, these pieces, these little bits over here, they're all filled in and they're dark, and those ones are getting fully cut out. You'd think, oh, maybe these lines here are also getting cut out as well. Nope, it's the white space that's getting cut out. So that's going to look completely different from what the sketch looks like at the end. And it's just like this mental map that I hold in my head as I'm working to make sure that I know what's going on.
Do you have a single piece that's your absolute favorite that you've ever done, or does it keep changing?
It tends to change because each piece has kind of a life and a story of its own. Though right now I do have a piece that has had a lot of staying power for me. It's a very personal piece, and it's actually still available on my store, and it's called The Longing Bones. That piece was very intensely personal, but also like I just am in love with how it turned out, and it's beautiful. Like, just there's something about it that I just really love. But yeah, I'm mostly it's kind of less of I have a favorite and more of like which piece feels like it has kind of the staying power in that moment. Because at least for me as an artist, I kind of, the way that I go about these projects is I'm going to do the best that I can to finish this project, and I'm going to put all like as much like good energy as I can into it. At the end, like, you're happy with it for a moment, and then being so close to it, it's like, oh, this is perfection. And then like a moment later, like, oh wait, this could be better, that could be better. And then it's kind of like moving on to the next project, being like, okay, what can I learn, and what can I do better next time, or try out, or it turns into kind of a game of, okay, cool, I made this really cool thing. Now what can I do to work on for the next time? What new thing can I try? And that's kind of, I think, is a better way to look at, like a lot of artists are like, oh, I'm such a perfectionist, or it has to be perfect. And at the end of the day, it's not about perfection when you're doing something creative. It's about doing something that feels good and in the moment feels like it's done, and then looking at it and being like, this was good. Now let's see what I can do next time. And that's how that kind of progression and improvement and kind of development of style and skill comes in. Because it's not about making one single perfect piece. It's about doing something over and over and over again in different ways and learning through the process. So yeah, that was a very long, weird, and rambling way of saying I love all of my work for the most part. And it kind of comes down to which pieces kind of have that staying power of like I keep kind of going back to it and just being happy when I see it, even over time. And there are still things that I think I could improve on Longing Bones, but it has this power to it that I can't just deny that. Like, it just feels really good to see.
Okay. I'm putting the title, The Longing Bones, in the chat to everyone, so if they want to look at it, they can.
I think, I posted a photo of it to my Instagram yesterday, so it should be at the top, close to the top of that feed, if anyone wants to check that out on social media as well. But yeah, I love Longing Bones.
Is that the one where it's almost looking like the Invisible Man, except you're looking at the outline of the woman and then her organs and her skeleton?
Yeah, it's the skeletal one.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the structured trees, and then on the bottom they're what are called colloquially as skeleton flowers. They're like a small like wildflower that I think are somewhat native to like mountains in like Virginia or something like that. I don't remember. I'd have to check up on the Wikipedia page again. But they're called colloquially skeleton flowers, and they're these little tiny white flowers that, you know, appear white under normal conditions, and then when they become wet with any sort of water or rain or what have you, they turn basically translucent. So that's kind of where I pulled for the bottoms part of that piece, creating that feeling of translucency and skeletal X-ray feeling, but in a softer, feminine, more feminine form.
Yes, yes. The Invisible Man was really a bad analogy. It was the only thing I could think of.
Oh no, that's fine. It works out. At the end of the day, it's just, you know, what are the words that you can put to it that to get the point across, and it worked. Words are not my forte.
Beautiful.
Words are not my forte. A thing that I say pretty often is just words are hard, but I really enjoy creating this artwork stuff because it feels like it's a creative outlet that I can speak through to a certain extent. And I think that is a really important and powerful thing. Hey, look at that. Hey, we have this little corner done in 30 minutes.
Yes, I grossly underestimated how much time it would take me to try to finish a digital painting because I don't normally time myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, this is just taking way too long.
There's a lot of time that goes into it, but at the end, you know, if you're happy with it, then it was worth it. Because things and stuff.
Yes. If you are not able to do your art for a while, do you feel like it's building up and trying to escape from you?
Sometimes. COVID has actually been a weird time for that. So with COVID, what I've found is, like, I've found it a lot harder to find the kind of creative energy that I had initially going into the year of 2020. And it just kind of, like, the momentum and the drive that I had was just completely sucked away. So in a way, like, I ended up, like, my productivity throughout the last year feels like it's just been a lot lower and slower than it has been at any other point. And I think in a way that's important to take that slower time in this kind of traumatic time in our lives. But yeah, it's sometimes there's a piece where it's just like I have to just kind of get this out. And one of those pieces for me was actually, I think there's been a few of those where it's just like I just have something that I need to get out of my system and work through it. And sometimes it's just I need to step away for a bit and regain my creative energy. It just kind of depends on where my energy levels are and where I am mentally. So it's kind of a weird dance of how are things feeling, and sometimes there's a need and a drive to get something out, and I feel like I'm finally back in somewhat of an upswing. After a long time of all of this lockdown and stuff. But so that's been feeling really good right now. But for a while of 2020, I was just like, I just don't have that energy. And for my work, I want to be able to impart energy that I feel good about, and, you know, to create something that feels good for me and for other people as well. Because my ultimate goal is just create something beautiful that people want to just that people will want to just, you know, feel, or me, myself, and I. But it's just basically create something beautiful. And if I don't have that energy going into something, then it's going to translate into the work. And I don't want to poison that work with a feeling of just kind of not, I don't know, that kind of negative energy is not something that I want to put into my work. If that makes sense. I hope it does.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this past year, it's either increased people's productivity or it's decreased it.
Yeah, it's been rough. It's been a wild ride, and being able to, like, all of the events that I was a part of, or that I was planning to be a part of last year, got canceled. So that took a lot of wind out of my sails. Like my metaphorical sails, not as, oh, I mean, you know, all of the sails, in every way, shape, or form. And, you know, it's been really nice to, like, with this year finally getting back into at least some of the events, because my work really does best when people can see it in person, because there is a three-dimensionality and a physicality to it that as amazing as social media and internet and all of those tools are, it doesn't quite capture what the human eye does. And so having those live events was something that was really important to me. And I am really glad that I could be a part of this, at the very least right now, so that I can share some of my work with people again. Because seeing those reactions of people just kind of lighting up and seeing the work, it's just, it just kind of, it feeds the soul, basically, to a certain extent. Hey, look at that. Little wispies everywhere.
So I'm watching you on 3 different screens right now. And it's interesting because the coloring is slightly different on all of them.
Yep. There's that whole thing about how your monitor can affect how things go. It's like, you know, how a lot of artists is like, okay, well, you have a print version of an image, and then you have a screen version of an image, and they have slightly different values because of the way that ink and physical inks will interact to get the right color versus how a monitor is.
Not only that, but the platforms are showing up in different colors.
Weird.
YouTube and Facebook, yeah, they're off. They're not quite the same.
That's crazy.
They're on the same monitor.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay, that's interesting.
yes. It might just be because I'm used to looking and comparing the colors on digital.
Maybe. Right now we're just doing all of these little tiny bits. We haven't gotten to the big impressive stuff yet. But it'll take time. This is why I was like, you know, we'll do 2 sessions so that people can see kind of how it morphs from nothing cut into everything and gets cut out at the end.
I think the tiny pieces are actually very impressive. It takes so much control and patience to do those tiny, tiny cuts.
It's also really satisfying to pull out a big piece, though.
Okay.
It's just like, yes. When it comes out nice and smooth, it's just like, ooh, that was satisfying. But no, the little pieces are also just, yeah, it's just this meditative feel to the process. Just like, okay, which piece am I going to do next? And just focusing on where the edges of that piece are and following it. Boop. But yeah, the majority of these pieces are all smaller than a fingertip, like very much smaller than a fingertip.
How did you get started in this particular media?
So for a long time, or sorry, I should start not all the way at the beginning, but somewhat. So in college, I have a degree in natural resource management and a minor in soil science. but I have not used those because I realized in college that I was chasing something that was kind of not fully what I would be happy doing, even though it's one of my passions. But it wouldn't have worked particularly well. And when it came down to it, I was like, well, if I wanted to go after this, then I would have to do a full-on grad school. And I didn't have a clear idea of what I would do for grad school. And if you're going to do grad school, you better know what you're doing. And I had rediscovered recently that I really needed creativity in my life. So I ended up getting deep into cosplay stuff, and I kind of pulled a 180 and decided to kind of do a bunch of self-taught and other classes to just, like, mostly self-taught of, you know, just working out my creativity and figuring out what I wanted to do. And for a while, it was like about 5 years that I was doing cosplay stuff. And I just couldn't come up with a model where it felt like it would work for me. And so I was in a pretty dark place at the time of just kind of like, well, I feel like I don't have something that I feel like I can really kind of commit myself to for being able to support myself while doing it. And then a friend of mine, one of my best friends, was like, hey, there's this art gallery thing that my work is putting on. You should come and hang out. So I did, and someone there had done something similar to the light boxes on a much more simplified scale of, you know, a few layers of paper that were cut out and backlit with LEDs, and again, much more simple on the design side of things. But I was like, ooh, that's a thing that I could do. And I fell in love with that feeling. I loved the idea of, you know, bringing back in that kind of physical puzzle of things that I really enjoyed with doing cosplay stuff, while also being able to play around with lighting and this fine detail work. Because I used to draw like all the time as a kid, and in high school and stuff, I took a couple art classes, but color was always kind of a tricky thing for me, because in a way it was like a lot of things with art is like, you know, there's so many possibilities. You could do all of these different kinds of things. How do you decide? So it kind of came down into this decision paralysis of, okay, well, what can I do? So I ended up gravitating initially a lot towards like graphite and that kind of grayscale, just as my go-to. And then when I discovered the paper, because I still love color, the paper gave me the kind of bounds and restrictions that kind of can spur creative thinking and creative thought, and problem solving. So with the paper, it's this puzzle, it's this structure where I don't have to think about color in the moment of when I'm creating the piece. And then when it comes to the lighting, that's where the magic kind of happens. And, you know, it's letting the light kind of do the work of it, and playing with how the diffusion works, or, you know, how the colors are going to mix, or the feeling that I want with it. So in a way, that the restrictions that I put upon myself on some of this is actually kind of liberating, because it spurs that creative thought that I really enjoy, and just has all these elements that I feel like I can just keep playing with. So yeah, I made my first box in March of 2016, and I've been working with this medium and playing around with different concepts and things ever since. And it's felt really nice and rewarding to do that. I've come a long way. It's neat to see. I've made definitely over 100, what I call my boxes. I've made over 100 of those, definitely, maybe close to 150 of those. And it's neat to look back at my initial work and just to see how my art style has shifted and changed over time and developed, even in just like a few years. And I'm really excited that I get to play around now with some of these additional elements, like the gold stuff that I'm playing with now. And the UV paint is a whole nother ball game where I get to play with, again, it's still a restricted color palette, which I find really fascinating. But I get to bring in that color. So right now I'm working on an octopus garden piece, which means that I can finally bring in a bunch of color into a coral reef scene, which is really exciting to me. And I'm looking forward to sharing some of those progress pics on social media and stuff.
Okay. So about 5 more minutes.
Uh-huh. And this is where we're at now. We have a quarter here. Yeah, so this is a 5 by 7 inch piece here. This grid here is 1 by 1 inches for each of these squares here. So that gives you an idea of the progress here. It's slow going, but I'm excited to see how this turns out. And I'll be working on this again in tomorrow's live art session as well. We'll be continuing work on this as well, so we'll get more progress done. So if you want to see more of how this is coming through and getting and progressing, be sure to stop back tomorrow at the same time, 1 to 2. And we will continue working on this and chatting and all of those good things. Right now I'm basically just trying to fill out getting the details on this bottom edge so that I can then move up and start working on getting this lower wing cut out, because I want to be able to get through some of the bigger cuts on this for my satisfaction as well as everyone else's satisfaction, but that's probably going to have to be tomorrow once we get to the wing. This is a very different kind of more painterly style for me than I have usually done in the past, so it's pretty exciting though. One of the other things that I really enjoy is taking such a structured medium as paper and figuring out and playing with ways to soften edges or soften or creating things soft like clouds or sky or something like that. That's been one of my ongoing experiments, is just working with the paper and seeing how I can create a soft effect, especially with the lighting in my 3-dimensional work.
Yeah, that would be difficult.
It's tricky, and I end up using, again, the bulk of my work is in the watercolor paper, but I also integrate vellum, not actual calfskin vellum, but manufactured vellum. So it's not from an actual animal, but yeah. So I end up incorporating vellum, which I have a piece right here, which is very light and translucent and has this beautiful fog effect to it. And so I love working with it to create different lighting effects and creating translucency that feels solid, but still allows light through in a different way. And it also has some cool qualities of working with it to create softer lines in some ways. I use it a lot in my water and skies and other things to create these effects.
Have you ever looked at those puppets, the shadow puppets?
Oh yeah, like the like super elaborate, like Chinese beautiful shadow puppets. Yeah, those are really cool. I have I don't know exactly what material they use for that, because I think from what my research has shown is that they tend to be fairly solid. and relatively durable, which is really cool. But yeah, I haven't gone into those so much. But it would be really cool to see some of those more up close and see what kind of materials are involved with those, because it's kind of a similar concept in some ways. Okay, we're going to get this piece right here. Whoop. Then we flip. And that's where we're at for now. I think that seems like a pretty good point. But yeah, this is looking really cool. I like how this like feels a little splattery. I'm actually going to grab a needle here and just kind of make some of these holes a little more rounded. This is something that I do from time to time if I want something to feel a little more round, because it's hard to do these tiny, tiny circles. And sometimes I do just do pinpricks for some of these teeny tiny circles. It's one of those little secrets. That if you want to do tiny circular holes in paper, use a pin or a needle. And the backside will be a little bit puckered, but you'll get largely a perfect circle, or kind of get the paper pushed a little more towards that circular feeling. So I do this technique a lot if I'm doing like stars or something like that, or little motes of light, or just teeny tiny circles. Just to get that more rounded feel that I actually want to keep like that. Little tips and tricks. Almost all of it is done with the knife, though. And then these are our little leavings. I make hand cut confetti. That is what I do for a living. I make hand cut confetti. It is great. It's custom shapes, every single one. It's one of those jokes I tell myself all the time. Anyway,
yes,
this is like a pretty good spot where we can leave it for tomorrow, and we will continue working on this butterfly.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
That looks like it's going to be beautiful when it's done.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. It should be a nice complement to these other two that I've got with the gold edge. These two gold edge pieces. Oh, it looks so cool. This one's actually really like, oh, look at that shine. It's so pretty. Anyway. There we have it. So yeah, I hope everyone has a fantastic day and enjoy the other events for Norwescon. It was a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to being here again tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. And that was Brittany Otto from, I could have asked you about that, the Badger Burrow.
Yeah, Badger Burrow Studios. That's just the business name is Badger Burrow Studios. Seattle local artist. But yeah, that's me.
Okay. I just sent Lizzie the correct Zoom address, so hopefully she gets that.
Perfect. I just wanted to give you enough of a buffer there for whatever recording stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I hope things are going well.
Yeah, mine was a little bit of a disaster, but I kind of expected it to be, which is why I took it.
It should mean
just
hopefully...
as a quick commentary, you guys are still, you're now offline on Twitch, but you're still live on YouTube and Facebook.
Ah, thank you.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I will vacate the space so that you guys can bring in the next person, and it was a pleasure to be here. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow as well. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, Lizzie's here. Hey, Liz. Did you check the... Oops. Liz? Liz, I sent you the wrong Zoom address, but I just sent you the correct one. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, that's... Oh, I couldn't get the Facebook or anything to work correctly. Oh, whoops, sorry. I was not paying attention. Okay. Yeah, it's just astounding to be able to keep all that in your head, all those different layers, and then have to redo them. Okay, you have probably the wrong address. I'm trying to copy and paste it so I can send it to you. We still have a few minutes. Oh no, don't worry. Okay, I think I got the right one now. I just sent it. Okay. Yeah. Is there a faster way to get this to you? There, I see you.
Here. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm getting you in stereo because I have
The air meets. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and
right now.
I'm gonna leave air meets. So yeah. And welcome to everyone else that's here.
Would you like me to read from your page for an introduction?
Just a moment. I just lost. Oh, come on. Be nice to me. Okay. I don't know what gives with that. So.
Okay. Yeah, we still have a couple minutes.
Okay. I might have. What you mean, like my webpage or what I have? Oh, good. Because I was trying to say, don't read anything on my booth. I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay.
So, yeah. It's been one of those days. Weeks, actually. So, then let me see here. I want to see the Facebook just in case people put in some comments. I am not very tech savvy, so.
Yeah,
None of us actually know what we're doing. We're all winging it because this stuff's so new.
And it keeps on kicking me out of the video every time I leave Zoom. It's like, oh, you're gone. But you can still hear me. Just
for Zoom or for AirMeet?
Well, I left the AirMeet, my own thing, because, it was doing the echo.
Feedback.
Yeah. So, hoping that this will do what I want it to. No, you didn't do what I wanted you to do. So,
Okay.
And this is starting, and it's not, oh, well, you'll just have to let me know if people comment. It's not going to cooperate with me.
Okay. Well, there's a few people here today at our art interaction booth.
Hello.
Okay. So everybody, this is Lizzie D. Hill. She's a watercolorist. She's currently illustrating a children's book, which I can't remember the name of. I'm on the wrong page.
No, it's okay. It is When the Fireflies Came. Well, I guess, do you want me to just get going on this?
Okay, sure. If you are comfortable, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'll just start prattling on. So sadly, I'm not going to be showing stuff working on it right here in front of everyone, because there's some things that the writer requested that I did not show yet because this book isn't done yet. And I will also point out that this is the first time I've illustrated a book. And the reason I wanted to share is because, one thing, it's been on the front of my head since July. So there's nothing else I'm thinking about. But also, I had to go and look up stuff to learn how to approach it because I didn't know. So I thought, well, if anything, this will give some people an idea of what the process is. And so I do have some slideshow stuff. But first off, I'll tell you how I got the gig was by this painting. Everybody that's been Norwescon long enough knows this painting that I still own. It's kind of funny. I have heard so many people say, I love this painting. It's so beautiful. I'm all, oh, that's great. You gonna buy it? No. So I'm all, okay. So I still have it. It's all framed and beautiful. But the story goes is that I was contacted by the writer because she Googled Mother Nature, and this was one of the images that popped up. And when she contacted me, she's all, this is what I imagined this character in my book to look like. This is what I want. So I got the job because of Mother Nature. And she won't slideshow. I don't know why. So we're going to put her away and pull up the next phase of it. But hang on, sure. Okay. But so yeah, so I'm trying to, I had notes. Where did they go? They got covered by my son's homework. This is the life of working at home. So yeah, found out she lives in Britain. She did not know where I lived until I pointed out the time difference when she was all, hey, you want to meet at 10 o'clock in the morning? And I'm looking at the time zone differences and I'm all, But she's the sweetest thing. She does children's books, all poetry-like. And and she has been a very kind and patient woman because she is fully aware this is my first time illustrating a book. And luckily she gave me a huge amount, a long time to work on it. So it's been I appreciate her doing that for me. So the first part that I had to work on was making up the cover because she wanted to start, pushing people to, let people know this is happening. And so I can't show this because she's already showed the cover on social media and stuff. So this is okay. But so what I did was I drew some thumbnails of what I thought some different designs for the cover itself, because she wanted Mother Nature on the front. So I'm all, okay, let's try this stuff out. So, do a close up and did that and kind of did this thing. She wanted Mother Nature to have fireflies around her. I guess I should clarify, the fireflies are actually fairies in disguise, and they're helping a sad little boy. And they introduce him to Mother Nature, who goes and tells him about, because he's had sad things happen, but if he looked on if he, like count his blessings or just looked at it at a different angle, he would realize that there's good things happening. You just got to look for it. So that's kind of what the story is, to help kids, deal with some situations like that.
Very appropriate for this year.
Yes. So anyway, so these were some of my thumbnails, and then I digitally colored them in to give her an idea of, this is the front and back of the book, so that's why the tree looks weird. But at the end, after I showed her these, she thought they're all nice, but what I really want is that painting, but with Mother Nature holding these fireflies. So I'm all, okay, so had to go back on that. So I was very brave, and I have reference photos. Well, these ones I didn't take, but I was trying to get color tone here just to get an idea of how I want my background to look. And then, oh, maybe that photo did not show up here. So, oh well. Anyway, so once I got done with the thumbnail and she gave me the go, I went into drawing, the line drawing. This is all traditional art kind of stuff. So I have found out that traditional art and illustrating a children's book is very time consuming. I've learned that if I ever do another book again, I think I will look towards more digital than traditional. But I do enjoy traditional. I really did enjoy drawing up this cover and all that. But so we have, here's this line art, and come on, work for me.
Okay. Actually, can I clarify that? Is it the right-hand side of the image is the front cover, and the left-hand side is the back cover?
Yes. That's
Okay.
why it kind of looks that way. So yeah, so it would open up. Yeah, I guess I should have clarified that. But so yeah, Mother Nature is on the front side, and in this case, you see the progress starting. The boy is on the back side. So I made sure there was space for words and stuff, which is something that I had to constantly think about through this process. Was there was always going to be words somewhere. So I always had to think about that kind of space, which there's been some pages that I didn't know how to approach it because everything looks wrong, but it's because the words aren't there to balance everything out. Because, when you're an artist, you're trying to find that balance. It's easy on the eyes. You want people to enjoy the page. But when there's pages that have words on them, it gets a little, you have to start thinking outside the box and imagine verses and stuff in that same page. So, but this is just the process of what's going on here. Just the process of the colors and putting in my backgrounds. There's the fireflies, and that's a bad shot. But I might just go through these a little quicker. So, but yeah, you can see watercolor is challenging because, if you mess up, you're kind of stuck, especially with certain pigments, especially yellow. Yellow likes to stay on the page. So I always have a paper towel at my side just in case something doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So watercolors is from light to dark. That way you could keep it under control. So that's why you're seeing everything getting darker as we go, and how Mother Nature is starting out all light, though we already have her green mascara on, I guess. But so, but yeah,
big difference there.
Yeah, I was probably at that point that I forgot to take pictures for a while. I am horrible. I mean, this is probably the best I've ever done, keeping a progress photos of a project. So, but anyways, and then I put in the leaves and whatnot, and then we got the book itself. So here's the final piece. I've actually did go into Photoshop. There were mistakes, and I used Photoshop to help tweak those things, get the color tones corrected, things like that. So though working in traditional, Photoshop is your friend, or any kind of thing similar to Photoshop. If it can help you fix those small mistakes, it's better than starting the whole thing over again. So, but yeah, after she was, I put it in, the writer was all happy. She's all, cool, that's awesome. I love it. Let's do this. And so I went through the process again. This is, it's almost a repeat. It's pretty much a repeat of the process over and over, but started drawing out thumbnails, ideas of the different verses. She gave me the poem, and I had to figure out what's going on in each verse, but also I only have a limited amount of pages. I believe in a children's book, it's about, it's customary to have it around almost 30 pages. So, and there's also different sizes of images on a page. You have your full spread, where it's a painting or a picture that takes up both sides of the page, both pages. So when you open up, it's like, ta-da, a big old scene, landscape or whatever. And then there's the one pager, and then you have quarter page, and then you have the accent ones, where the quarter page, obviously only takes up a small part of the page, so there's room for the words. And then you have that little, I already forgot what I called that. Don't know why, but the embellishment was just, just a simple thing in the corner. Some little.
Oh, the accent.
Accent. Thank you. So, but yeah, this is just me putting down ideas. Here's the intro. The boy's walking away from his house. This is in winter, if the cover hadn't already spoiled that. But, he's walking through the woods. He's heading to a tree so he can sit down and cry. That's pretty much the first part of this poem. It's just him being all sad. The fairies are telling the story, talking about this little boy and how they wanted to go in and help. So, but yeah, I gotta, so these were in my sketchbook, just drawing ideas. Not all of them got used. Just throwing ideas out there, saying, okay, we got this. And the numbers that you see on the pages, those are all, okay, these are these verses. So I know that on this page right here, if you see my mouse arrow, has 2 verses on it, and this one over here only has 1. Well, and I'll go into that later. And I gotta move my mouse. I'm kind of in an awkward corner. So, but there we go. Oh, that's so much easier. But yeah, so, 14, 15, we have a bunch of fairies talking to the boy, and I have my notes that I can't read there, but you write down notes, try to remember certain things. Maybe there's a change. And continuing on, they're not all the pages to the book, but so once I got an idea of stuff, and me and the writer have been talking constantly. I went ahead and started turning it into a book format. And this was my biggest struggle, because I wasn't sure what side of the page the story starts on. So I had to look up things, and there wasn't enough information online that I could find that helped me with that. So I had to go to the author and just say, I don't know where this is supposed to start. So I know, because my biggest problem was I have these verses, they're all assigned to certain pages, but if the pages were on the wrong page, like if everything was moved over to where the dedication thing was at, then it would screw up a whole bunch of things. It wouldn't make sense, and the verses would be all in the wrong spots, and it was just that. So she then at that point got the book designer involved to help me out. And so they gave me give me a little help. So I took these thumbnails and digitally put them into these squares, and you can see where there are words right here. These lines are words. So don't try anything else with those. But yeah, so I'm just trying to get an idea of where everything's supposed to be and will it fit on a page. Because the other thing you need to know when you're starting an illustration, starting a book, especially a children's book, is what size is it going to be? Because honestly, there's many different sizes of children's books. So, but, and hers, most of them were actually more of a square. But in this case, this one is, I believe 8.5 by 11. So more upright kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, but anyways, so we did some work here, worked on this stuff. This image right here, the number 16, it used to be a one-pager, and the book designer was actually not really able to fit the verse in properly. And something I had learned is that, and this is the other reason why I really needed to know where pages were going to start, because there are some pages, some pictures that you want to be that surprise, the kind of thing.
Like lifting the curtain on a theater.
Yes. So it's like, this is the intro page to Mother Nature. So she's walking in, you turn the page and all of a sudden, oh, there she is. There is Mother Nature kind of thing. So I had to make sure of that. The book writer said there's not enough room for the verses. And I'm all, well, let's just make that a spread because this is Mother Nature's intro. Mm-hmm. So I went for that. And this one actually over here, the ones with the stars were all the ones that I'm all, okay, we got to make changes. I got to discuss. This one actually changed up too. It's not at all that way. But yeah, so, but yeah, it kind of gave me an idea of what to do, where everything is at. I actually printed it off so I could have it with me at all times while I'm working on my art. So I kind of keep everything in order and not forget things. Actually, I was last weekend. So I'm at the final phase of painting everything. And I was looking through all my stuff. I had stuff traced and things like that. And sorry, I'll talk about that in a second. But so I was all, okay, I think I have everything traced. And I started going over things and I'm all, okay, what have I gotten done? What have I not? And then I realized that I totally forgot one image. And it was only because I was looking through that thumbnail page, this thing, that I realized that I had forgotten it. I had it ready for tracing, but I somehow forgot to do that. So it was like, oh, great. I had to work on that too. So yeah, never a dull moment.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that there is no single source of information for children's illustrations, or would you say that it's more a matter of knowing how that particular book is going to be produced?
I think it's kind of like, I think it's all a matter of, I mean, I'm trying to find the right words. There's the basic knowledge of how it works, but then you also have to deal with what the writer or the publisher wants. I've never worked with a publisher, but the story goes, from what I know, how publishers work, the writer and the artist usually don't meet. Because a writer, and I've learned this in the past, a writer has their own ideas of what the book looks like. So, and this also includes cover art and stuff. So when this writer first came to me, I'm sitting there going, okay, we'll give it a try. But we clicked so well that it was really easy. She wanted what I had, and it made it so much easier to make this book. In the past, there was one writer that we fell through. It just wasn't working. And it was definitely a lesson learned on my part. I was in my 20s. It was brand new. I didn't know any better. But she wanted me to draw like a different artist, totally. She just saw, you're an artist, so you should be able to draw just like this person. And I'm all, well, I could try because I was desperate. And at the end, I've learned that it doesn't matter how desperate you are. If you can't draw that way, you have to tell the person, I can't do that. So, but yeah, it was a hard time, but you do what you got to do. But yeah, I think there's a basic idea of how to approach it. And then you got to know what's going on through the mind of who you're working for. So, because they might have some twists. Like, honestly, like back at the, let me see here. Let me pull it up. When it came to the cover art designs, I actually liked the top one. I liked how she was half hidden. So all you know is that there's this lady with a crazy hairstyle. And, but that's not what she wanted. So I had to adapt to it. But it was like, okay, I could do that too. So sometimes she wants my opinion and sometimes she saw I would like to do it this way. And I'm all, okay, I could adapt to that. And she's, like I said, we think on the same lines. So it makes it pretty easy to work with her and adapt to what she wishes for. So, but anyways, this is just a picture of my hand I was using as a reference. Sorry, I wanted to call it a resource. But yeah, I was.
I see.
Yeah. So.
And then the Christmas lights are a stand-in for the fireflies, or you just were using that?
I was using them as a light source for a scene. The fireflies aren't involved in this scene, but yeah, there's. I actually had a picture of me somewhere here, but it's not a very good one. So it's probably better that nobody saw it.
Okay.
But I've used Christmas lights, especially the battery operated ones, for light sources, like for the original painting Mother Nature. I actually had took a picture of myself holding a ball of lights so I could get that light source that's hitting her face and whatnot. So, but yeah, so Christmas lights are awesome.
Yeah, that's a good thing to know.
Yeah, it's as long as they're battery operated, it makes life easier. In this case, I think I was testing lights and they were all over my son's floor and I'm all, hey, I could do this. So hurried up and did some photo shoots of myself and kicked the cat out of the way a couple of times, just things like that.
Yeah.
She likes to be involved. But so yeah, took that hand, drew this scene because this is when Mother Nature is showing how there's the bright side, like, even though it's winter and everything looks dead, there's actually a lot of life kind of thing. So, and then later I did the painting.
Ooh, that's so pretty.
Yeah. And this painting is actually only like, I can't even remember its proper size, but it's a quarter page. It's not that big. And I went into Photoshop and I made it the size that it's supposed to be. Just did some tweaking with that background because it turned out so darn cool. But so yeah, that's what the page would look like before the words get on it. So, but yeah, it's a lot of that. And, I'm also keeping an open mind that there might be a point that the writer, the book designer might say, we might have to make some tweaks to things. So.
Have you scanned everything so that you can change it digitally?
Not yet. My first plan was to paint a set, then scan it and tweak it, and then paint a new set. But then my brain just went into paint mode, and that was it. I was stuck in that trench for a while. I still am. I'm at right now. I'm just like, just get everything, all the paintings done, then we'll scan them and work them in Photoshop. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. So, and if there's like one I really messed up on this week, I might be able to use it, put it in Photoshop and make some fixes because there's one part I really like and I would love to keep. But if it's going to take more time to Photoshop, I might just scratch that one and paint a whole new one. So It was just a mistake on my part. I tried doing a salt background I thought would look neat, and the salt got very carried away. Such as the gamble of working in watercolors. So, yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be this dark scene with the boy looking at these now transformed fairies, because at first they're all yellow fairies, fireflies. And then when they transform, all of a sudden they're different colored glowing orbs. And when you get close, you can see the fairy inside that glowing orb, and he's talking to them. And I was doing a dark background, and I thought, you know what, it'll look really cool to just get some soft salt textures, little orbs in the background. And so I did that, and it just went nuts. It's the salt had a party. It looked kind of like this green one, but worse. It was like, oh my goodness. So I was like, well, never mind about that one. Just scratch that. So, but yeah, these are just some of the, I use references the best to my ability, because, it's not like best of my ability. It's more of fitting in with my style. I use reference, but there are tweaks that happen. So, but now, like the hand changed. I did some slight tweaking there. There's another photo with a hand that looked better, so I'll insert there. You could tell I was getting very frustrated with all the lines. That's not working. That one's not working. So it's probably one of those times where a digital sketch would be easier, and then it's not so messy. But yeah, and then did the painting. This one was a smaller page again. And then I photoshopped it so it was a full-size page. Did some cloning and whatnot to help that out there. So I wish I could show the ones with Mother Nature, but like I said, I respect the writer and her wish to not show them. So, but yeah. And these are just mostly just the references towards those things. Getting color schemes and stuff. Drew out the boy walking into the woods. And then here's the painting. This was only a camera shot, so I'm pretty sure it'll scan a lot better. And thankfully there is Photoshop, because watercolor only is willing to work with you for so long until it gives up on you.
What type of scanner do you use? I mean, you don't use one of those like all-in-one scanner printer fax.
Oh no!
Oh yeah.
No, I have an Epson. I think it's an R6000 or something like that. It does a very nice job. This one is just a camera shot. But yeah, I know this would look far better if I had actually scanned it in. And probably could see more of the mistakes that I have. I'm looking at this going, oh my goodness, I'm showing this to the public. Oh. But you know what? That's just part of being an artist, is there's mistakes. And especially since it's a children's book, it's not something that's going to be framed and hung on a wall. I am more willing to work on it in Photoshop, just because you want the vibrant colors. And that's the other thing, is that since it's a children's book, you have to think about what would lure the child to want to read the book. And so, so that's been kind of tricky, because I had this idea of the boy. His color tones are very drained at the beginning of the book, but when he starts realizing all the happy things that he has done for others and for himself, his color changes to very bright colors. So that's been something I've been, I feel like I've been gambling with. I'm not sure how the kids will react, but at the same time, I think they would get it. They'll be sitting there going, wow, he's really sad. Everybody's all, because when the fairies show up, they're all bright and he's still a dull color. So it's that fun of taking what the writer wrote and adding to it. She when I told her the idea, she thought, I never would have thought of that. Well, I feel like that's how it would be seen. So like she actually had oh yeah, and this is the he's coming home, he's happy thing. That's a sketch. And then the final painting. So his colors are a lot brighter, even in the dark, and things like that. But something else that's been fun being, helping this writer, this children's writer, is in her verses, and I don't have those. I wish I had them. Do I have them? Oh, there I am. Yeah, I needed the hands, but this isn't the original one that I took for the first painting, but the hands had to change. So yeah, there I am. We'll go. Is there another way? Nope, we'll go back. We're done with that one. But she had some verses where she's talking about how, the first, when he starts pretty much telling Mother Nature, well, these are the things I've been sad about. His father's been upset because he lost his job. So he's been grumpy, and his grandpa's sick, and his friend moved away. But then Mother Nature's all, well, check this out. And she only, in the writing in the poem that the writer wrote, she only brings up that the father and son were interacting in a positive way. So I did a picture of them at a dinner table kind of thing, and, showing that they're laughing and having fun. But she doesn't talk about the other two things. Instead, her verses go into talking about how the boy is all, oh, well, there's not just, there's sad things, but there's good going on. And in those two verses, I'm all, instead of, just in there having him look like he's thinking, instead, I incorporated those positive things. His grandpa, he's playing card games with his grandpa and he's happy. And then the next one, he had his friend over for a sleepover. So showing those things without them, without the writer having to tell them. So that's in fun. That one, I enjoyed incorporating that in. She thought it was awesome. Kind of a lesson learned. That's actually something that artists can do with these books is, the writer doesn't always have to say everything in a children's book. They just need to say enough that it still connects to the story. The artist can incorporate whatever, as long as it's connected. So, but yeah, so I'm trying to think of anything else. This is end up doing a little earlier than I would like, so I have notes. Thank goodness. I hadn't been following them at all. Oh, something else I did learn about the thumbnails is where are you, thumbnails? Oh, the Zoom thing is in my way. Something I read about.
I read into that a lot.
Yeah, it's like move aside. But an important thing about thumbnails is that they can be sloppy. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so this is probably way more than it should have, but it made it easier doing the line art, which was very time consuming. That took up a lot more time than I thought it would. But when drawing the thumbnails, because you're trying to show this to, whoever, you want to make it clear what's going on in each image, because it just helps them visualize what is going on in there and knowing where to put the words. So I actually have moving that video thing to the side again. The book designer took those thumbnails. I sent them, the whole thing so I could see an idea, and she actually put the words in with it to show, hey, this is how it's fitting. So it was kind of fun to see that. It was like, wow, this could actually be a book.
Yeah.
So, but.
Did you look at anybody else's books to try to figure out how you were going to tell the story through pictures?
I did. And actually, she had some books. She sent me a PDF of one of her books to help me how she and artists she has worked with before, how they approach the books as well. And it's nice to have that kind of reference, especially if you are working with the writer directly with the writer, it's nice to see what they have done, so you know what
What they
page
like.
they're on. Yeah, what they like. But I have used other children books. I still, even though my son's a teenager, I have hung on to some that I really like because I love the art.
Oh, David Weissner. Do you have any of his books?
Oh, what's the title?
Sector 7. Let's see. Was it Tuesday? I'm trying to think of all of them, but Sector 7 is most of his books have no words. And the entire book is told through pictures. So,
See, I have to see it. That's the problem, is that a lot of times I just have books because the art is pretty, but I should actually look and see who wrote it and who painted it.
yeah,
I'm kind of bad that way. There's one book I have and I absolutely love, and I know it's the artist was Mercer Mayer. Actually, I think he kind of did the writing too. I would have to look, but Mercer Mayer was the Little Critters artist, if you remember Little Critters.
Mm-hmm.
But he has a totally different style. This book is East of the Sun, West of the Moon. It's not published anymore. I actually bought a used one off of Amazon because I really want this book. I remember it from when I was in elementary school. It was in the library. And but his art in there is just absolutely gorgeous. And it was just these beautiful fantasy drawings and with ink and watercolor. It was just fantastic. But I tried to, I'm trying to remember the title of the books. I feel like I gotta run upstairs and grab them, but there was one that was How I Became a Pirate for a Day. So a little boy was on the beach, pirates showed up and he's all, hey, can I hang out with you? And so they took him. They went and found a treasure and then he went home. But the art was fun in that one. And there was another book I have where it's about, I forgot the title exactly, but it's based off of the story of the boy who cried wolf. But it's on the perspective side of the wolf, but he's an old wolf and he really doesn't want to, he's growing a vegetable garden. He doesn't have the energy to chase after anything. But he makes a deal with the boy because the boy kept on tricking the villagers, and he took one of the goats home and then found out the goat was actually very useful because he ate the weeds out of his vegetable garden, so he didn't eat the goat. But the art in that one was just gorgeous too, and it was just fun seeing how he did things, how the artist did that. So, but yeah, I have used some references and asked the writer. I did request to see her stuff, so she was more than happy to show me that. So, but anyways, so this was the page right here before she became a two-spread. This is when the writers all were just kind of, the book designer was all, I don't see how well this is going to fit if we can make it work. And well, I don't want to make her smaller.
Which page is that?
This is the one that has the yellow box. It might need a little more space for the text above and below Mother Nature. So
okay. I'm still seeing the picture of the boy running toward the father.
Really?
Yep.
Oh no! I've been scrolling through this thing. Okay. Let me see here. I wonder why. Huh. That's weird. Well, darn, because it goes to, it actually connects to the internet, this layout, so.
Oh.
Yeah, so maybe it's not going to share that. Sorry, folks, who's ever listening. That's a bummer. I would love to show the writing stuff. Wonder how I could do that. That's weird that it's not sharing. So, I don't know if you can see that. Did anything change on yours?
Let me refresh the page. I don't know if it's just me.
So, my screen sharing has been paused. Okay, let's go back and see if we could do this. It's a new share. Come on, be nice to me. There we go. Okay, can you see?
Oh, yes.
There we
that's
go.
Better.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, people. So let me go back to the top. So we can scroll through this again. Woohoo!
Okay, so this is when you were saying the words were in there. I was thinking you were
Yeah.
talking about the lines in there.
Yeah, no, this is
Okay.
actually real words, not pretend words.
Okay.
So yeah, this is where the book designer put the words in so I could get an idea of what kind of space I'm dealing with. So so things changed, like this one changed a little bit, the final one. And that one's still really tricky. I did such a gamble on this one with the shadows, but yeah, so the one I was talking about was this one with the yellow box. There it is. But yeah, the designer couldn't fit the verses in very well. And so that's when I'm all, well, this is the whole intro. This is Mother Nature, ta-da kind of thing. So let's make it a 2-pager. So that's all the problem. So she has no words around her at all. And we just moved some things around to make that work because the writer felt like she was very important. That intro page was important. So we did a couple of leaping through hoops and stuff. So, but yeah, this is the part with the boy being sad. And,
I see.
and see, this is what I was talking about earlier. So her name is also Aria, also known as Mother Nature, but Aria for short. That's what the writer did. So, but she's showing the boy the happy thought. So here he is with his dad. They're happy. And the boy's going, wow, that's so awesome. But the other verses don't talk about the other thoughts. It's just talking about how, he could rethink things. So I just kept going with the story of him thinking about these happy thoughts without the writer having to say anything about them. So that's like I was saying earlier, that's what's fun about being an artist and working with these writers is that sometimes they don't have to tell everything in a children's book. There's enough message in the art. It made me realize how important artists are in a children's book because you read the words, and you're getting a story from there, but you're also getting a story from the artist. I just learned to appreciate it more because I've always loved illustrated books. I'm a kid at heart, but it's just working on it officially. It's like, wow, that's what this is all about, is that it's a total conversion of the two, the writer and the artist working together to make this book that tells a whole story, fills in all the gaps and stuff.
Collaborating to tell the story in both words and images.
Exactly. So.
Oh, yes, I've actually heard that for electronic books, every category of electronic books is outselling the paperback, the Dead Tree books, except for children's illustrated books. And the Kindles, all those ebooks, they just can't match having the book in your hand for children's illustrated books.
Yeah, I think there's some digital out there, but in all honesty, just having a real book, it just makes it. I think it's better for the kid being able to turn the page and things like that. So, trying to think of anything else here.
Okay. Well, how about your coloring book?
Well, we only have 5 minutes left. I kind of thought if we wanted to, we can do that tomorrow.
Okay, that sounds good.
Because I was just tucking it away, saying, I'll just in case I need more time.
Okay.
But I will talk briefly about it. Let me see here. I don't know if you can see. Are you seeing me clicking on my stuff? And
I'm not seeing the images change.
Okay, that's what's going on. All right, I am learning new things. So let me see here. I believe it's this one. Let me just check with you. Are you seeing a cat with a bunch of books?
Yep.
Okay. Yes. So I did this back in 2019, and I did a Kickstarter. It was the first time I ever did a Kickstarter. And as much as I watched other artists talk about how they did their Kickstarters and all that stuff, I still had so much to learn. It was a huge learning experience. Not just a Kickstarter, but making a coloring book. So, but I was super excited that I was able to, I had a successful Kickstarter, and I was so excited to sell these coloring books this year. And now they're all sitting in my closet.
Thank you, 2020.
I was like, wow, of course that would happen. I finally have more than prints. So, yeah. And for anybody who wants to know, that's Mia, my cat. So, just for FYI. But yeah, I kind of thought I could talk about that tomorrow. I just the fleet of an idea that came up today. I'm all, well, it might be fun to talk about the Kickstarter stuff, because I know a lot of people have questions. My sister, who is also an artist, she had questions, and there was things I learned from experience that I did not know about before. And it's, yeah, it was fun. So, fun, and definitely will plan a lot better the next time. Because yes, I am planning on, I want to do another coloring book. I was thinking of fae, so fairies and the type. I don't know if they're all going to have wings, or I kind of thought of a mix of mermaids and whatnot. It's compared to what I'm in the mood for. But, but yeah. So,
have you checked out Hannah Charlton's page?
You like her website?
Yes.
I have, and I love her drawings. Those are fun.
Yeah. She has the coloring pages that I thought were really cool.
I didn't see those. I saw all her color stuff, so I'll have to look that up. And I'm going to stop sharing because I'm mean. So, but anyways, so did anybody have any questions? Or
I've been watching and I haven't seen anybody with a question, but when I get into AirMeet, it's not really a good format to type a chat.
Yeah.
It's too much echoing for me. So this is the only one that I haven't been able to monitor.
Yeah. And the other thing is, we discovered Brittany Torres was with me when we were watching yours, and you couldn't hear us at all because I
couldn't.
Yeah, we were sitting at a table watching. And I also had you on Facebook too, but that got weird because of the time difference.
The lag.
Yeah, the lag. There you go. But yeah, well, I guess let me see here.
Yep.
2:47. Let me see here. So, ending thoughts. This has
You'd be willing to do it again?
I would, but like I said, I definitely think I would go more digital, because as you notice, there's this process. And when I was, especially the line art was probably the most time consuming part of it. And I forgot to put up, I did have color plans, as I called them, of what I want my paintings to look like. So I digitally did a color plan, and I'm all, okay, now I have that plan. So I pull out my tablet and use that to guide me as I paint. But, the line art took forever, because even though I drew it on paper, I did scan it in so I can make any tweaks that I couldn't quite figure out on paper. But then I started doing the color plan, and then I'm all, you know what? I could have totally just turned this color plan into the illustrated page, just totally did what I wanted right there and then. But it's supposed to be watercolor, so I had to stick with that.
Yeah. I have not seen a good way to do digital art to look like watercolor. I know some people come close, but it's something I studied quite a bit. I was trying to get that watercolor effect with my digital art.
Yeah. I know there's watercolor paintbrushes, but I mean, digital art for me is, I mean, I got a basic idea of how it works. Like I could survive by scanning in my pictures and doing tweaks and stuff, but I haven't really put in the effort of, doing an art drawing. I actually signed up for a Udemy art digital class so I could get an idea, get a feel for it, because there's projects that I have planned that I realize that I cannot do them digitally. I mean, not digitally, traditionally. So it would be good to know. I want to put together a comic book, graphic novel thing. And something I learned when I did the coloring book was I really suck at pen. So digital saved me there. But and I could go into my mistakes of the Kickstarter tomorrow, but I could tell you that there's some programs you don't try to do a big project on because they're not meant for big projects. And that was a hard lesson on my part. But yeah, I keep on hearing that there are paintbrushes, digital paintbrushes that do watercolor. And I don't know. And it might be that I would have my own style that isn't watercolor on digital. And I'm fine. I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. And I figured, you know what, I could do, when I want to do a traditional art, I could do that. But on my other projects, if I'm going to be putting together a comic book or, coloring book, that could all go digital. And that's okay. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it.
Okay. Well, it's 2:50.
Woohoo!
So, well, thank you.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. So thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. So are you going to be hanging around your artist booth for a while, or?
Yes, I am going to. Thank you for reminding me. I would have been totally off running into the kitchen saying, I'm free. No, for an hour after this, I will be at my booth. So if anybody has any questions or wants to come and visit and talk, I'll be there. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Please.
Well, enjoy the convention. I saw you're in the dealer's room too.
Yeah, that was a mistake on my part.
Okay.
Well, the art shows you have a booth. And I'm all, oh, okay. So I tried to get on and they weren't letting me in. And I'm reading the thing that they sent me. And it was like, you had a dealer's booth. I'm all, oh, I was supposed to sign up as a dealer. And now I found out that I didn't have to. I am technologically impaired. It's like, yeah, I'm kind of in the dealer's room, but I'm kind of not. There's been a lot of chaos happening lately, so I'm only here for a limited time. It's just how it turned out. So, but if people are wanting to say hi to me and are not able to come right after this, I am planning on being at my booth an hour before tomorrow's session and an hour afterwards. I wrote it in my description because I'm all, this is all I could do. Type.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, I'll see you later. I'll see you tomorrow.
All righty. We'll see you then.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.